The astrology of this month is split right down the middle. The first 10 days have this kind of gritty feeling defined by the friction of a heavy square between Mars and Sagittarius and Saturn and Pisces. Emphasizing this is the fact that Saturn has just stationed direct and is barely moving at the end of the zodiac. So this is the end of the end, a moment of finality where we are cementing the lessons of the last 3 years. But the shift mid-month is stark. Neptune is stationing direct to clear the fog, but first we're going to have to find our way out. Mercury is entering Sagittarius. We're going to restore our sense of vision there, and Mars is entering his exaltation in Capricorn. So we're moving from this heavy, slow review of the past into finally seeing something new. Here's your forecast for most of December. For Aries rising, the first week or so of December is going to feel like a spiritual bottleneck of sorts. Saturn is just stationed direct in your 12th house, tantalizingly close to your sign Aries, but not there yet. And this is the most hidden part of any chart. He's just sitting there like a stone, forcing you to look at any self-defeating behaviors, any subconscious fears that you've been battling for the years and years of this Saturn cycle since the last time he was in Aries almost 30 years ago. All this is happening while the tantalizing possibility of something new in March when Saturn enters your sign is just egging things on. Now, Mars is in your 9th house, desperately wanting to run free, to publish, to travel, to, crusade in some way. But Saturn is blocking the exit here, setting some rules of engagement. The feeling right now is that you cannot outrun your shadow. You do have to integrate it. Don't force any launches right now. Wait until the middle of the month for December 15th, because that's when Mars enters Capricorn, your 10th house, exalted. The energy releases instantly. You can channel all this internal kind of background work, maybe even frustrations, into some massive, visible, professional progress. This is your time. For Taurus rising, you are going through a rigorous social process that gives a sense of sorting to me. That's because Saturn is currently parked in the 11th house of your community, also where you are invested into. This is his final pass, and right now he's just stationary. We're kind of waiting for him to get a move on. Looking at this as solidifying who is on your team and who is just a fair weather friend. But there's a plus side of this because you know who can actually be counted on, who you can walk into the future with. Because Mars is in your 8th house right now, that kind of emphasizes this theme of looking at relationships, seeing if the juice is worth the squeeze, It's kind of that feeling of like group work and seeing like, what do I get out of this? What do I put in? This could also indicate some financial tension, something around debts, that kind of thing. I think overall it is going to be a catalyst for realization because we often meet hidden parts of our psyche with the 8th house as well. This could be a lonely process at times, Saturn in the 11th, Mars in the 8th, malefics in some relationship houses. Yeah, that can add some loneliness. You're kind of like having to extract value where you can. It's true. But this is necessary quality control. It's sort of like weeding the garden of your friendships, of your community, of your relationships in general. Making sure the kind of plants, vegetables, flowers, whatever that you want to grow in this metaphor actually have the space, the room, the attention from you to do so. Once Mercury enters Sag and Mars enters your 9th house of Capricorn in the middle of the month, I think the heavy lifting is done. Things are going to be a little easier. You'll be free to pivot towards new educational, travel goals, that kind of thing. You're going to have maybe a lighter but a much truer crew and space for expanding from there. So it's just temporary. For Gemini rising, Saturn in your 10th house makes this feel sort of like a final exam for your career, your public standing, something related to this. Also for some people, the mother. Now Saturn is stationing in your 10th house, so you are feeling the full weight of some type of authority here. Could be your own, could be your boss's. That's already a lot of pressure. And meanwhile, Mars is in your 7th house, aggravating this. Creating some conflict with partners, maybe around just how much you've had to focus on work or the sheer pressure that you're under. It's almost crushing, but this is temporary, okay? The urge is to snap, right? But you need to hold it together. This is going to pass and soon. An apt metaphor here is to think of this heaviness, this kind of like sludginess that you're feeling is sort of like the wet cement drying around all the work you've been doing in the 10th house. Saturn is leaving there soon, lifting the limitations and restrictions around your career and your public standing this March. Meanwhile, it does feel restrictive, but we're building something enduring to stand upon so we can make real progress then. Mid-month, Mars is moving into your 8th house in Capricorn. That's going to take some of the pressure off, and it's going to allow you to get, some real work and drive done in any group projects you're in so you can clear the table for some progress finally. I think you're going to be lifting this pressure off of yourself It's going to feel a lot better soon. Now for Cancer rising, one way to put it is that you're stuck between a daily grind and looking at the big picture, really wanting more. A part of this is because Saturn is stationary in your 9th house right now, so that brings up themes of higher education, college, school for some. For others, it shows us kind of like solidifying, seeking definition, going through a questioning phase in our worldview and our beliefs in general, like, you know, what do things actually mean? I think you're kind of climbing the trees right now to see the forest in a way, so you're not just stuck in the details. You're sort of downloading the bigger map here. There is some big tension here because Mars in your 6th house of daily, like toil, of health, that kind of thing. Your routine could be crushing right now. There's not really time to look up. You have so much to do. I think some are feeling overworked. Others are feeling kind of overwhelmed by a health issue. It's preventing you from taking maybe a trip you care about, maybe some forward movement that you want. And it being the 6th house of health, I also need to mention that you should pay attention to your health right now. Make sure you're stabilizing anything. Take real good care of yourself at this point. But mid-month, the dynamic is flipping. You know, we no longer have to worry about this. Mars enters your 7th house exalted. There's a capable partner coming in for you, maybe a return of drive, of energy. You're going to feel like a surge of energy as you're relieved from the 6th house toil kind of issue where you've been, you know, so overworked. Like now you have all that energy that you've been building up, almost training like someone working out, you know? So you can put it to good use. And maybe there's a partner here stepping in to help just shoulder the load, you know? You don't have to carry it all alone. Now for Leo rising, Saturn is sitting heavy in your 8th house of duties, of debt. It has a psychological element to it. There's also group work here. There could just be some financial leaks, emotional dependencies, or maybe, you know, some stubborn partners or some type of thing like that that's just causing a blockage here, especially because it's squaring Mars in your 5th house, you know, just wanting to create, to play, to have fun, maybe even gamble a little bit. But Saturn is, you know, saying we don't really have all that money for this. You got to be creative in how you play right now. Also show romantic endeavors, hitting a wall of cold reality, maybe some creative projects that run into some issues, some delays or blockages. Whatever negatives this aspect represents in your life, you can take the time to build wisdom from it, to see what you can learn from it, to build from it, and then come back stronger next time. More self-control is available through this. Mars square Saturn is a signature of building discipline, of building like this complete control, you know, unstoppableness, really. Keep strong until mid-month. Hold your fire until then. Mars is going to enter your 6th house in Capricorn then. See this as you kind of getting your mojo back then. Mars is just going to help you sink into your routine, focusing on health or just daily work, and you're really going to enjoy it with Mars exalted in Capricorn. You'll have the discipline to fix what is ever broken in your routine or your health, your kind of habits that was causing these leaks, these problems that we've run into up until now. So this shift in mid-December is going to be a big relief for you, I think. It's a time where you can make some small changes, some small improvements that are going to have big effects down the line. Maybe set you up for success in March when Saturn leaves your 8th house, freeing you of this kind of like inner just heaviness that you've had, allowing you to focus more on your beliefs, on worldviews, on big travels, maybe education. Maybe you're becoming a teacher, Leo. So for Virgo risings, you're kind of going through it again. There's a fundamental tension in both your home life and your relationships at the moment. Mars in the 4th house could bring some chaos, some, you know, strife or fights in families and home situations. It also just kind of adds some fire to the personality. Maybe you just have a little more heat going on inside you right now. And I don't think Saturn is helping this because he's making his like slow last stand in your 7th house of your relationships, especially committed ones. So it's making relationships feel heavy, serious, maybe blocked. They could be going through a questioning phase with Saturn as he seeks definition. I do think for some, this is make or break moment where you're defining the boundaries of your commitments. I think you should have the hard conversations now while Mercury is in Scorpio and trining Saturn, allowing for something good to come out of this. Mid-month, there is some relief coming. This is just temporary. You're going to be out of it and soon. Mercury is going to clear the post-retrograde shadow, which is going to be good for you. Your chart ruler is finally moving into some new territory after a long and agonizing retrograde. At the same time, Mars is entering your 5th house, exalted in Capricorn. Energy shifts into focusing on fun, on creative projects and children. It will be a really welcome relief after it, is causing chaos in the fourth house and the roots of your chart. And it'll be sextiling Saturn. Finally, some of these limits and these blockages in your relationships will start to thaw out, will start to lift. So hold tight, Virgo. We are almost through it. So for Libra rising, Mars is in your third house, creating this frantic mental environment, giving you this racing mind at the moment. But your Lord of exaltation, Saturn, is stationing direct. Everything's just moving in slow motion with that. And he's in your sixth house of your health, your chores, your daily habits, bringing up this questioning focus of, where do your habits set you up for success and where do they set you up for failure? Mars in Sagittarius, you're feeling very restless. You're even getting ready to make plans to network about this. But you really have to focus on some sixth house stuff right now. It's kind of a bummer, It's like you're moving forward just painfully slowly, one task at a time. And there's a bit more chores than you would probably like. That energy is changing. Mars and the Sun are entering your fourth house, Capricorn, going from a fire sign to an earth sign. That kind of and in Capricorn, we're building something that maybe we had to dream and kind of get this big picture vision for in Sagittarius, that now is going to have actual tangible work put behind it in Capricorn. So around mid-month, the chaos should settle. There should be a little less focus on the chores and the errands and just the kind of neighborhood roots kind of thing that we get from third house and sixth house. And you'll be more focused on really just stabilizing and building a firm, solid foundation with Capricorn and fourth house themes activated. I think a lot of projects come together at the very end of the month when we have all these planets in Capricorn, including your chart ruler Venus. That's when you're going to really see some forward movement, even if it's just plans for now. That's how everything starts. So you are seeing some progress here, but first we've got to make these shifts. For Scorpio rising, the first part of December could bring up some tension around your finances or your job, but it might be serving a purpose. Mars is your ruler after all, and he's in your second house right now in Sagittarius, and this is like a classic, burning a hole in your pocket, or maybe even being overworked, having to put too much energy into your day-to-day livelihood kind of thing. Meanwhile, Saturn is stationing direct in your fifth house, and it's pretty loud, It may make this a more serious time where there's more responsibilities than there are fifth house, hobbies and fun activities. But at the same time, I think Saturn in the fifth is asking you to take your happiness seriously. This is part of being healthy, is having these hobbies, this joyous part of your life. And also between this square with Mars, it's we have to actually budget for this, don't we? Because this is a square between the second house and the fifth house, and it's between the malefic planets. Financial issues may be a bit unavoidable here, but I think some hard work sees you through it, and you are the big winner of the mid-month shift after all, because your chart ruler Mars is entering Capricorn exalted, going from the second house to the third house. So that energy, that drive is no longer just focused around finances, building up funds or working. It's really more about the mental energy, about the plans and the communication that can come out of it. Some big picture plans that you've had will finally start translating into more detailed plans. You may even start communicating around it, negotiating around it in the third house. We really get this theme of communication. I think money issues subside and you start making some forward movements, some real plans that really explode in March when all this Aries energy comes to fore. Sagittarius rising, you are in the hot seat in the first part of December. Mars is in your first house, making you quite restless, maybe even a bit reckless, but giving you drive and ambition. It is a powerful asset. There is some tension though. Saturn is sitting at the very bottom of your chart in the fourth house, really just pouring cement around the roots, making you feel maybe a bit constricted and limited. There could be family issues, or even just day-to-day life just has a lot of work in it for you. There's a feeling of being contained by duty, but restless to really get out, to really just have some more fun and adventure in life. So if there are any family issues or just issues that really affect the very foundations of your life, I suggest dealing with them in the early parts of December while Mercury is still in Scorpio, trining this Saturn placement, meaning that there can be some type of good, forward emotionally healthy progress that comes out of it. So I think this release you're looking for could happen in the middle of December when Mercury re-enters Sagittarius, and especially when it moves past 6 Sagittarius, ending the post-retrograde shadow and starting a new story finally after like this months-long agonizing retrograde story since basically middle October. Around the same time, Mars is moving into Capricorn in your second house of your finances and your job. Also exalted here in Capricorn, so there's a lot of drive and ambition coming to the fore for you to really build wealth here rather than just like burning energy. It's like you're taking that restless energy from Mars and Sagittarius and grounding it into this earth sign of Capricorn, making it tangible. In Capricorn, you can really start building something that builds wealth for you in the second house. So I see this as very positive moving forward. At the same time, Mars in Capricorn is giving you energy to put effort into making some positive changes and progress in your job, in your finances sector. Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good beginning of winter for you. For Capricorn rising, early December is a little mentally tough for you. It's sort of like a psychological minefield. Part of this is because Mars is in your 12th house. That's the place of hidden enemies, but also subconscious things, dreams, even sleep. And it's causing some friction, some tension here, even some conflict. And a lot of this is made worse because it's squaring your ruler Saturn, who is just standing still in the 3rd house. The 3rd house is really mentally oriented. It kind of shows where your thoughts are. So it's like you're really just stuck pondering with Saturn stationing direct there on these martial things, these sort of agitating things from the 12th house. It's like you're struggling to articulate a heavy burden that you've been carrying. It might even have this sort of suffering and silence feeling, and you do need to remember you have Jupiter and Cancer in your 7th house, meaning that you have some relationships that you can lean into right now that can provide help if needed. Energy is changing soon though, because by mid-month on December 15th, Mars is entering your sign, exalted in your 1st house. So it's like your vitality returns. You're not invisible anymore. Your drive and ambition are here. You're not really taking any prisoners in this time period. Well, the first part of December was tough. It was really just restructuring how you think, how you speak. This changing world, you had to change your strategy for it, right? And maybe that was really just subconscious at first and had a difficult start to it. But I think by mid-December, your will is back, you know? Your vitality is totally restored. This is a powerful Capricorn season for you. Your ability to impose your will on this world will be at its peak for this time. So for my fellow Aquarius risings, overall the first part of December is a bit more hectic, showing a lot of social engagements. Meanwhile, the second part of December is a bit more private, showing, you know, some time with family and close ones, and maybe even some private work, you know, strategizing, basically planning your 2026 takeover. Now, Mars in the 11th house suggests a lot of energy being expended into like friend groups and social networks. Meanwhile, Saturn is moving very slowly through your 2nd house still, forcing you to take this final hard look at any type of scarcity mindset that it has been unearthing in these past 3 years. Hopefully you've seen a slow but steady increase in your finances and even just your ability to handle finances. You know, this square could show you being asked to contribute something you can't afford to a social group, or maybe even finding that like your values aren't aligning with one group or another. Or maybe it'll be you realizing you have to put more effort into socializing or into your community. It's going to bring up some type of conflict between what you have to give and the wider community that you're a part of. Could also just be a lot of social engagements and maybe a classic work hard, play hard signature, but either way, it is taking its toll on your energy because there's a lot of stuff going on in your 12th house as soon as we get to the middle of the month and Mars enters Capricorn. So if there are any conflicts in your social group, I think they chill out by then, and things are in general just a little more down to earth for you then. So that hectic feeling gives way to this feeling of like touching grass, grounding things, really starting to strategize and work on something in private in mid-month after a period of rest possibly. Combined with the fact that your chart ruler Saturn is going to be making some forward progress finally at this time, finally moving forward to clear the last degrees of the zodiac, I think we're going to see you laying the foundations for some new big project here. So for Pisces rising, you are feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, but you might also be feeling stronger than you've ever been. Saturn is finishing his long 3-year tour of your 1st house, sitting right on top of you. And that could be like cementing a new identity. There's been a long process of questioning, of seeking definition. But now you're emerging from this period a bit more serious, a bit more mature, maybe a bit more established and ready to do something. Mars in 10th kind of emphasizes that, adding some tension here with the square, but A square can also show activation. It could show you really putting some work into something, like doing something defining, 10th house related, about career and reputation. And there could also be some issues around work, testing this new strength. So that could show bosses being demanding, or the pressures of this career development being demanding too. But this is your chance to show you can handle the pressure. And that pressure is temporary. It's going to find some relief by mid-month because Neptune is going to finally station direct in your first house, and we're going to get a slow but sure clearing of the fog here. Meanwhile, Mars will move into Capricorn where it's exalted at the same time, and this will make this energy a lot more grounded and steady. I think there's a lot of energy around socializing and having a good time here, and I think there's also some really driven, powerful allies coming in who appreciate the serious person that you have become here. The real progress is coming in March when your ruler Jupiter stations direct, exalted in Cancer. So I think you're really building up for some success, some real forward movement then. So while the first part of December could be maybe particularly demanding for you Pisces, I think it just gets better and better as we move on, even through all the way to March.